Secretary Scott Bessent says he's likely to hash out an extension of President Trump's upcoming trade deadline with China when he meets with his Chinese counterparts in Stockholm next week. Back in May, you'll remember the two countries agreed to a 90-day suspension of most of the tariffs on each other's goods while trade negotiations continued. That date, though, is set to expire on August 12th. Secretary Bessent joins us now. Mr. Secretary, thanks for the time this morning. So we got a couple of deadlines coming up. August 12th, specifically there with China. August 1st is the big one, kind of with everybody else. Let's start with August 1st. Do you expect that to continue to be a hard deadline to make these deals with so many other countries still out there?
Well, we had the big deal with Japan last night,
Yep.
which I think very innovative deal. The Japanese came. They're tough negotiators, and President Trump spent about 75 minutes, and we reached a fantastic deal in the Oval. And I think what we'll see on August 1st, President Trump has said that anyone who doesn't have a deal by August 1st will go back to the April 2nd reciprocal trade date, but that doesn't mean, or trade tariff level, but that doesn't mean we can't keep negotiating. And as a matter of fact, that may apply a bit more pressure as the rate gets ratcheted up.
So, Mr. Secretary, let's turn then to China. As Willie mentioned, that deadline also approaching. It's sort of the big one out there. President Trump has said that progress has been made. There's been a framework, but details still need to be filled in. He says he hopes to go to China even to get it done at some point. But walk us through the steps that still need to get finished in order for a deal to be official to the point where the president could put a signature on it.
Look, we have a series of deals with China. We had a deal for rare earth magnets, which they've been supplying. We took down some countermeasures as they'd held back the magnets. And I actually think now that we are moving into a new phase with China, having gotten over the initial tariff deals. As you would remember, on April 2nd, when President Trump came out with the tariff levels, he had said for countries who don't escalate, the April 2nd level would be the highest level. China escalated, so we ended up in this unfortunate tit for tat as they escalated. We peaked at 145, they peaked at 125. In Geneva, we brought those rates down. Currently, we have 30% tariffs from this year on them. They have 10% on us. I think that is a status quo level for now. And now we can move on to discussing other matters in terms of bringing the economic relationship into balance.
On another topic, Mr. Secretary, President Trump has made no secret of his dislike for Fed Chair Jerome Powell, but disagrees with a lot of decisions he has made. You, though, have said you believe the Fed Chair should remain in his post, despite the president saying that he'd prefer him to be ousted. Should the president just simply say, I'm going to let the Fed Chair finish his term? Wouldn't that supply a degree of comfort and stability to the markets that seem to rattle every time the president suggests that Powell should be go?
Well, I'm not sure where that question comes from, because President Trump has repeatedly said he's not going to fire Chair Powell.
Okay, so you don't.
He might like for him to resign, but he's not going to fire him. He said that on numerous occasions. I think he may have even said it again yesterday.
Well, the pressure, then if that's the case, then you think the pressure campaign, which is a fairly incessant pressure campaign from the president on the Fed Chair, is that a good thing for the stability of the nation's economy?
I think anyone who goes into public service should expect pressure. I get pressure, from the president, from the Congress, from constituents. I put pressure on myself, so I think everyone's used to that. And Chair Powell's been around a long time.
Mr. Secretary, your reputation in the markets, your skill in dealing with markets precedes you to coming to Treasury. It's golden, it's untouched, it's unblemished. So this question is coming to you from me, who can barely get a Visa card, okay? That's my skill with economics. And the question is, The one thing I do know, and you were mentioning the new Japan trade deal, 15% tariffs, I do know that the tariffs, the cost of tariffs on automobiles, which will begin, I don't know, August 1st or whatever, will be paid by people like me, the consumer. The question is, does the president realize the consumer pays the tariffs?
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with that. Is who pays the tariffs is a choice. And what we've seen thus far is that the manufacturers are eating a substantial portion of the tariffs and taking it into their profit margins. So you might see, for instance, Toyota hasn't raised prices, and they may choose to go for market share rather than raising prices.
Are you, it's been the worst predictions that inflation was going to be fueled by this new tariffs regime have not turned out to be the case so far. Are you confident that even as new tariffs go into place on August 1st, on August 12th, that there will not be an effect that Americans are going to see when they try to buy a car or Christmas goods or toys or dolls or anything else?
Well, I think what we've seen so far is that the manufacturers have been eating it a lot, or the exporters have been taking a lot of the price or the tariff adjustment. I think we're also seeing a lot of the retailers do it. A lot of the retailers' margins got very fat during COVID, so I think some of them are absorbing it. I was with the Amazon CEO last week, and he said thus far they're not seeing any price increases. And thus far, we've seen very good inflation numbers this year.
So just to put a fine point on this, Mr. Secretary, it's your belief, you're confident that consumers will not see higher prices because of these tariffs?
I am confident that the overall inflation numbers are going to remain very benign. We saw the biggest decrease in inflation in the past 4 years 2 months ago, and I think that there's no reason to expect that we are going to see a substantial pickup in the price level.
We will see. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Mr. Secretary, thank you. We appreciate it.